Hey, this is Sheaun McKinney from The Neighborhood on CBS, and you are listening to the Man Cave Chronicles podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Man Cave Chronicles.
Welcome to the party, pal!
You're my boy, bro!
Yo, Adrian!
A podcast with interviews of amazing guests from the world of pop culture.
Oh, yeah!
TV.
Nice!
Movies.
Oh, I love the movies!
Comedy and more. From deep inside the Man Cave, your host, Elias.
Sheaun, welcome to the cave.
What's up, brother? Thanks for having me.
How are you, man? What's new with you?
I'm good, man. I'm blessed. Feeling blessed to be alive, be working, have a season 2 of our show, and continue to show the world some good work, hopefully.
Congratulations, man. It's one of my favorite shows.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that sincerely. Thank you.
So we'll talk about that. You've been busy the last few years with vice principals, and now you've done some cameos on different shows, and now you're one of the stars in The Neighborhood.
Yeah, it's been great, man. Vice principals really helped to open the door in this industry, and I've been working consistently since I got back from doing that show, and I'm so grateful to Sharon Bialy Thomas, that casting office, and Dane McBride and Rough House for opening that door, and Cash Mosley, my manager, for believing in me and seeing something in me, and getting me into this door. And for a lot of us in this industry, man, that's really all you need is somebody to let you in the door a little bit, and then the rest is, up to you.
Yeah,
so,
there's nothing wrong with that. So tell the listeners, where are you originally from?
I am born and raised in Miami, Florida, Dade County, and I have to say these 2 neighborhoods, or it'll be trouble when I go home. I was born and raised in Coconut Grove, not the pretty part. Before somebody thinks like, "Oh, you're from the Grove." There's 2 sides to the Grove. I'm from the projects in Coconut Grove, and in an area called Richmond Heights. I grew up in those two neighborhoods that I thank God I was born and raised in those areas, just for everything I learned and the friends and family that I have in those areas.
Yeah. So how was it growing up there as a kid?
How's it? What?
How was it growing up there as a kid?
It was great, man. I mean, you grow up in the hood, and it's, people have a misconception of what that is, and when you're inside anything, I think you obviously experience it different and see it different than the rest of the world does. But for us, it really was a community. I looked just like my father, so there wasn't much I could do or get away with because people knew exactly who I was.
Yeah.
But we really did grow up in a type of area where, the kids went outside, we played all day long, and we ran around and just had to be home before the street lights came on. And, unfortunately, sometimes you do live in an area where you might be exposed to more, to more things, more dangers or whatever. But there really was a sense of community and a sense of love where we grew up. And, every neighborhood has its problems and issues, but certainly anyone from the outside couldn't come into there and cause any problems,
Did you try to stay out of trouble as a kid?
I tried to. I sometimes you're guilty by association of some of the times the people you run with, but my mother was a corrections officer for 40 years. She just retired. Yeah. And so, we didn't get in too much trouble, and I was very lucky to have my dad as well. And my mom and my dad are still together, and, it's a blessing to have great parents and great role models in my life.
That's great. So as a kid growing up, what were you into? Sports?
Sports, yeah. Miami, listen, if anybody tells you different, they're a hater. Miami is the mecca of where all these amazing athletes come from. You know what I mean? And I'm a diehard Miami fan in every capacity: college football, basketball, football. I'm a diehard fan. I'm a true fan, which means I'm hurting right now because the Patriots just won a Super Bowl, and they are the axis of evil. So, but yeah, I was into sports, man, and wanted to play ball, wanted to play football, wanted to be a quarterback, and not until I got into college did I even consider, being an actor.
Yeah. You mentioned Patriots. I'm a Patriots fan. How do you feel about the Miami
Oh
Dolphins?
no!
How do you
Oh
feel,
God!
how do you feel about the coach from Miami? You're getting a Patriot.
The new coach.
Yeah.
Listen, first of all, I'm happy. I'm happy to see a minority, get an opportunity. Anytime a minority gets an opportunity, I think that's great. It can only help to open the door for the next one that comes behind him. So I'm anxious to see how he does. I just hope that he gets the support that he needs. I hope that our owner can open up the book and let him do what he needs to do. Let him get rid of who he needs to get rid of, and let's just rebuild. Let's try to do everything we can to get the kid out of Clemson when he comes out in 2021. So that's my hope. No expectations at all with the Dolphins this coming season. Surprise me.
I was watching the NFL Network earlier, and they were saying the best thing for them to do is go 0-16, get the number 1 pick, and then you get your quarterback.
Listen, that's what we hope. But Miami has been the definition of mediocrity since I was a kid. Since Dan Marino left, we find a way every year to finish right in the middle and get a middle of the round draft pick that doesn't really pan out, or something goes wrong. But we'll see. And I pray to God that we change our uniforms. We have the worst uniforms in the history of sport. I'm not talking about football. I mean sport, period. They don't reflect anything that says football at all. And I pray to God they change those uniforms.
Do you try to go to games every year when you're down there?
When I was coming up, we didn't go to a lot of games at all. I'm happy though. I was able to, for Father's Day, I got my dad some tickets to that Miracle in Miami game. He and my uncle went, so they had a really great time. But I haven't been to a football game in years. I think the last time I went was like the Dolphins played either the Saints or the Jets years ago. Wow. But it's been a while for me since I've been to a football game.
So when you were a kid, did you know you wanted to be an actor? Like, what drew you?
Not at all. My mom is the reason that that I'm an actor. When I was I went to a really good community college. At the time, it was a community college called Miami-Dade Community College. Now it's a 4-year university. But when I was there, it was community college, and I had just gone to the local school because I didn't know really what else to do. When I was in high school, I really was interested in being a chef. That's kind of what I wanted to do. But my high school had no culinary arts program. So my dad was like, just go to the local college and take some classes, and you'll kind of, you might gravitate towards something that you like. And I got there, and I remember I was taking a humanities course, and I wasn't going to class because I was like, oh, people don't care if you don't go when you're in college because you're paying for it yourself. So you can skip class as much as you want. And my mom was actually like paying for my classes at the time, and I was failing this humanities course, and the professor, her name was Karen Martin, and she kind of addressed the class, but I felt like she was looking right at me, and she was like, listen, I'm a part of the theater department. We're doing this play. If you audition for it, you'll get extra credit. It can help you if you're in a place where your grades aren't looking too good. And so in my head, I was like, listen, lady, I'm from the hood. Like, I don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not getting on stage. And I go home, and my mom is like, so what's up with that class? Like, how's everything going? And I was like, I'll be all right. The professor had mentioned if we audition for this play, you can get extra credit. And without missing a beat, my mom said, your ass is auditioning. And she kind of made me go audition for this play. And it was what's called commedia dell'arte, which is like Italian mask acting. And, a kid being born and raised in the projects had no idea what the hell was going on. Like, I had no idea what they were doing. But I just kind of went in. I got kind of competitive. And the moment I kind of got on stage, and I felt like I could kind of do, as cliche as it sounds, I felt like I can do anything I wanted. Yeah. And it really allowed me to kind of to blossom and to grow. And, being a male growing up in this Western culture where so suppressed with emotions and everything. And when I got on stage, I felt like I'm allowed here to do anything I want and not really be judged on it. And that's kind of what really drew me to it. And shortly after that, they offered me a theater scholarship, and some friends, me and my friends got together. We started a theater company there in Miami, and that's kind of how it all began.
So when you told your parents that you wanted to get into the acting role, what was their reaction?
I have extremely supportive parents. They never batted an eye. Like they never questioned it. They were used to seeing me run around the house and be silly, and just kind of I'm a middle child, so I think I'm naturally I figure things out. I go and I explore. I get into a lot of different things, and the middle child's usually the artist. And we figure things out on our own. So my parents never ever discouraged me from pursuing it. And I think I always felt like when I first started doing this that it wasn't quote unquote a real job. So in my head I was always like, well, I'll get a real job, like become a cop or something, and then I'll act on the side, because my friends and I had our own theater company. And to me that was enough at the time.
Yeah.
But I'm a person of faith, and the good Lord had other plans. And I came out to LA for a little bit, and I left LA, and then I came back. And when I came back the second time, it's when vice principals happened, and the rest of the story has me here talking to you. So,
yeah. So how did you land that gig for vice principals?
Well, I had lived in LA for about 4.5 years, and I had done one or two things here, then a couple of commercials and a couple of guest stars. The more important part was I had met a lot of different casting directors who thought I was talented, whatever. And so I was here for about 4.5 years, and I moved back to Miami for about 1.5 years, and I was trying to become a police officer. And my manager, Taz Mosley, had me come back to LA for what I thought was just going to be a weekend. I was going in to audition for some show. I forget what it was now. And I came back here for what I thought was going to be that weekend, and a lot of things just unfolded, man. Like it really did. It's a long story, but it unfolded in a way that I knew that something divine was kind of happening. That God Himself was saying, "This is where I need you to be." And I ended up being here about 2.5 months to me being back here in LA. I went in to audition for vice principals. It was a casting director from the office, B. Ali Thomas, and casting director by the name of Russell Scott, I believe, who had saw me do a showcase. I did one showcase my whole life here in LA, and he happened to be there. He really liked me. He sent me to do another show, and then he called me in to read for vice principals. And I went in that one time, and they were like, "Oh, he's really good," and they had me come back in. And when I went in the second time, Danny McBride and his whole team was in the room. And I read with the casting director, and then she was like, she goes, "Okay, now you're going to read with Danny. Are you ready?" And me being like a cocky bastard, I was like, "Is he ready?" You know what I mean? And
what was his reaction when you said that?
He lost it laughing, man. He lost it laughing, and we ended up doing the scene, and then we kind of went back and forth improvising a little bit, and I have an improv background. I'm used to doing like street theater and like guerrilla theater, and improv and whatnot. And I remember when I was done, he and the casting director were very complimentary, and then the casting director, she asked me, she said, "Were you nervous?" And I was like, "Oh, maybe a little." And then Danny looked at me right in the eyes and he said, "Well, you shouldn't be, because you nailed it." Wow. And I remember at that point kind of being like, I don't really care what happens. Like, to get that from him, like I was good. It felt great to get that kind of validation, from somebody I truly respect in this business. Mm-hmm. And then a few weeks later, I remember I was, my buddies and I had an apartment together, and we survived off of like Burger King and Subway coupons. That's how we ate. And I remember we were putting together our coupons to try to eat some dinner, and my manager called, and I remember answering the phone and going, "Hey man, I got to call you back because we're trying to eat dinner right now. So I'm trying to put together these coupons." And he was like, "No, you got to take this call." And then he told me that I had the part, and my life really did change after after that. So
that's great. So I mentioned earlier that now the listeners know you as Malcolm from The Neighborhood. What drew you on that project?
To be quite honest, man, it was funny because like I mentioned, we have a theater company, and I come from the stage, and we do a lot of intense, dramatic work. And I always felt like that's my forte is dramatic work. And I mean, I still I still feel that way. But when I did Vice Principals, a lot of people thought I was a stand-up comedian, and I've never in my life done stand-up, nor do I plan on attempting to do stand-up. I mean, who knows, one day maybe, but I think that is one of the highest forms of art that anyone can attempt to do, to do stand-up. And so a lot of my auditions after that became about all of these comedic auditions, which I don't mind. I mean, I understand comedy very well. And I remember going into that pilot season, I had kind of told my reps, I want to be geared towards more dramatic things and and whatnot. And pilot season is rough, man. If you're fortunate enough to be in a place where, you're I don't know I guess to say in demand, or you're getting a lot of auditions, you're gonna have 2 to 3 auditions a day, sometimes more during pilot season. It gets crazy. And I remember when the neighborhood audition came along, I initially went in to read for Marcel Spears, his character, for Marty,
really?
The guy who plays my little brother. And my reaction, I told my manager, I was like, listen, I can't do this. Like, I'm too old for this role, and it's not really in my wheelhouse. But he was like, listen, just go in, just do your thing, and, just take it. It's a great casting office at Lisa Miller Katz, who's amazing and believes in me and called me in to read. But I went in to read for it, and then they wanted to test me, which is another round of auditioning. And I went in, and it was me and Marcel, who plays Marty. It was he and I reading for the role of Marty. And to honest to God, I was like, oh, this kid's going to get it. You know what I mean? Like, he's extremely talented, and much better suited for this than I am. So I just thought, like, oh, this will be cool when you test. Sometimes you get to raise your quote up as an actor, so this will help me. And that's all I was really looking at it as. And then I read for the role, and I walked out of the room. And when I got to my car, my manager called, and he said, hey, they want to bring you back in for the role of the older brother. And I'll admit, I had not read the full script, which is kind of taboo. But I hadn't. It was pilot season. I was busy, and I was like, "What older brother?" And so he was like, "Man, go read the script." I go and I read the full script, and I read Malcolm, and I was like, "Oh, like this I can do." You know what I mean? Especially the pilot. I was like, "This I can really, I can do," and I feel like it's really trying to say something. Yeah. And then I met Jim Reynolds. We had the writer creator Jim Reynolds of the show. We had like a 20-minute conversation before I went in to read for the role of Malcolm. And he is one of the most genuine, I think, deepest people that you'll ever come across. And his vision for what he's trying to do with this show and what he's trying to say, not just about race relations, but about humanity as a whole, I think needs to be heard. And we don't hear it at all, and especially in the climate that we live in now. And once I really spoke to him and I understood where he was coming from, and he truly, told me, he was a fan of mine from Vice Principals, and I had no idea. He was like a big fan of the show. And we had a real good conversation, and I remember going in to read. I was the only one there. It was like 6:00 at night, and I read for it, and then like a couple of weeks later, I got the part.
Yeah.
And
the role fits you, and Marcel does a great job on his character also.
Yeah, absolutely. He's that kid's so talented, man. I cannot wait for the world to truly see all that he has to offer. And he's an incredible stage actor as well, and couldn't be a nicer dude. We truly feel like we have so much love for each other, and we are genuine friends, which I don't say lightly,
Yeah. How would you describe Malcolm?
I think the great thing about Malcolm is that he's so relatable to a lot of not just inner city kids, but like kids or young people in general that feel like the world doesn't really see them, and that they have so much to offer, but there are certain labels and certain perceptions that we have to get past. Because the moment, and especially being black, especially being from a certain place. You know, I was telling someone else this, like, it's unfortunate, but it's my belief and it's my contention that if you know, if you see like a white kid and they live at home and they're unemployed, you might just say, yeah, they're unemployed. They're trying to figure it out. But if you're black and you're living at home and you don't have a job, you don't really get that same reaction. It's a different connotation to you being unemployed, and it's not linked to you just being circumstantial. It's linked to your intellect. It's linked to you not having motivation or anything like that. And that's not the case with this kid. He's extremely well read. People pay attention, but almost every episode, you know, he's into a different book, and he's thoughtful, he's insightful, and, you know, he was great at one thing in his life, and he's trying to figure out what that next step is. And I think that's what's so relatable to a lot of people, not just in this country, but, you know, in this world, that, you know, sometimes we all get to that place in life where we don't know what the next step is, but we have to go ahead and take that step, whether it's, you know, whether we see the road fully or not. You have to take that next step. And I think that's where Malcolm kind of is in his life. And also seeing one of the beautiful things about this show is seeing a black family express love and express the ability to want to communicate with each other, because we don't see that a lot, you know, on TV or wherever it is, you know, in this country especially.
You're right about that, yeah. So, like, for the listeners that haven't seen the show, how do you explain to them what the show is about?
First of all, you're gonna laugh. I think it's one of the few shows that you can really sit your entire family down in front of. Yeah. And that didn't hit me until, you know, my little cousin, you know, watched the show, and I have little cousins who could not watch Vice Principals because of, you know, the language and stuff like that. But I really describe it as you see this well-meaning, good-hearted person that is immersed into a culture he doesn't understand and he doesn't know, and he's trying to figure it out. And it's dealing with, there are undertones of real issues, but they're dealt with through a comedic lens. So I think what's great is that we all sit here and we have these ideas about other cultures, right? But you will never say it to me. I'll never say it to you, and people will never say it to each other. And through this show, you see certain thoughts and ideas said out loud, and everybody can watch it and go, yeah, I really did think that about black people, or I really did think that about white people. Yeah. And you're watching it through a comedic lens. And the great thing is that humor is one of the most disarming things in the world. You know what I mean? And you get to watch people truly communicate and ask those questions that people, you know, will be at the office talking about the next day. The episode about, you know, about why black people use wash rags and why white people don't, or whatever, you know, whatever it is, or those small things about, you know, the black women and their hair, and all types of issues that we can really get into. And so I think for anybody, you're watching the show and you're going to see questions that you really want to ask a person that doesn't look like you through a comedic lens be answered. Yeah.
How is it working with that cast? Because that's an amazing cast between Cedric, Max, Beth.
Yeah. Everybody. Listen, it doesn't. I've been very fortunate. I will say I've been fortunate with TV and film that I've come into a lot of great casts, and this ranks right at the top, because it doesn't always work out that way. And you know, working with Cedric, he's a comedic genius and a you know, king of comedy. And I've been watching him since I was a kid, and watching Tachina, who plays my mom. I watch her every night on Martin. Yeah. You know, the reruns. Pardon this fire truck going by, but I watch her every night on Martin. Watch the reruns, and watching Sad for years, and to have them playing my parents is really. It's extremely humbling, man. And Max Greenfield and Beth are both legends in their own right and what they've done. Yeah. And two of the most giving and you know, just smartest actors you ever come across. Yeah. And everybody gets along on this show, and everybody cares about the project. It's great.
Now, the chemistry between Cedric and Max is like, it's hilarious when them two go at it.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever like find yourself like laughing when they start talking to each other?
Absolutely. We all do it. Like it's funny because you'll watch a show. It's interesting to kind of be there every single day and watch this stuff play out and watch the structure of the show be built. And a lot of the times I think people who aren't, in the industry will watch a show and they don't really get to see from behind the scenes how it's being built and the parallels and the storylines that are coming across. And the Max and Cedric, I mean, they're the odd couple, you know what I mean? Which is kind of a comedy structure that's been around for years. That's always funny, just because you see people that are polar opposites forced to be in the same space with each other. And those two happen to be great at what they do. So watching that play out is is always funny, and it's a blessing to be there on set to watch that play out.
So one of my favorite episodes is the one where you're playing basketball and those kids come after you for your sneakers. Do you what is one of your favorite scenes or episode that you were in?
I don't watch the stuff that I do, but I do remember the moments that I have like going through it. And particular with this show, I think the moment that I was allowed to have with Cedric when he and Malcolm were having a father and son conversation, just about their communication, I think was one of my favorite moments. And then Malcolm talking to the little kid after they took my shoes, checking for my shoes, talking to him have been my favorite moments on this show, just because I think watching a father and son communicate with each other that way, being African American, we don't get to see that on TV at all. Yeah. Truly at all, we don't. And watching a somewhat older black male talk to a younger black male is so vital and so important. And those type of things need to be seen because they do happen. The media doesn't show that, TV doesn't show that, but these are conversations that do happen. And we do care about each other. We do love each other. And so those two moments have been my favorite moments so far.
Yeah. So now when you meet people that come up to you, because you said, you taught theater also, what is some advice you give to somebody that comes up to you and says, hey, I want to be an actor?
It happens a lot. I think people do it in person, people do it through social media, but I tell most people, especially my friends who are back home or somewhere else, and I know some people don't like to hear this, but I feel like in this moment where we live right now, you kind of have to get to LA or get to New York. And some people will tell you, well, you can make it happen where you are. And that's true. And God bless you if you can. If you live in Miami, if you want to make it there or Atlanta or anywhere else. It doesn't mean that's impossible, but your chances are also more so magnified. Yeah. If you first of all just get to LA, get to New York, and start whatever you do. If you're willing to struggle or do whatever it is in a climate in a place that's not here, then you can do it here. And I think you have to start and realize there's nothing that's stopping you in this moment from getting better, whether that's writing, whether that's studying, whether that's creating. If you have a camera, just shoot. I remember being at what was it? It was something, and I had the pleasure of meeting Robert Townsend. Okay. And Robert Townsend was speaking to this audience, and he was answering this lady's question, and she was saying, I have this camera, and I'm trying to create this thing, and he stopped her, and he said, you got a camera? And she said, yes. He goes, then start filming. And she said, no, but I need to, and he goes, start filming. She kept trying to come up with all these excuses, and he was like, just start filming. That's it. And I think a lot of people need to, maybe hear that. It's to just start doing it. You will get better. You know what I mean? You will get better. You will figure it out. Just start doing it. Come up with ideas. Get with people who think like you. Get with people who don't think like you, and come up with ideas. Go to film festivals. Go to the movies and study your favorite actors and find out about your craft and learn as much as you can. Don't expect anyone to give you anything. Go out there and just start doing it, and you will truly start to figure this thing out.
How do you try to improve your acting skills every day? I know you've been acting for years, but to keep up with everything, like what do you do?
I think for me, it's observation. That's been my greatest tool my whole life is the observation of humanity as a whole and watching different people. Like when I was in school, for a very brief time, I went to a conservatory program, and for like a semester before I realized I couldn't learn that way. But which also led me to realize what the greatest training for me has been like real life and watching people. And like when I was going to that school, it was downtown, and even living downtown now, watching the life around me and watching people that are in different positions in life, watching really, really filthy rich execs walk by me and watching the way they behave, and watching people who are unfortunately in other situations who may not have a place to live, and watching how they behave, and talking to people all the time, and talking to people who don't look like me, and not judging anybody, and not judging myself and being so hard on myself, allowing myself to feel different things and react to different things and study different things. But observation's been the greatest tool, because when you go out to play anything, there's going to be some of you in there. There's going to be things that you pull from that are different sources. And for me, it's like if I'm playing somebody that might have a lot of tics or quirks, I truly remember, people that I spoke to that may behave that way, or somebody that I saw that may have been doing that. And I try to just observe as much as I can and process it, the best way I know how.
So when you're not acting and you're not working, what do you like to do for fun?
Mostly my buddies just left my place now, and we're trying to get back in shape and trying to write. I guess writing is considered part of what I do, but trying to write as much as I can has been. To me, it is fun. It's more frustrating than acting is, but trying to write, man. Trying to write as much as I can. Trying to read as much as I can, and that's been taking up most of my time.
Yeah.
Writing as much as I can and reading as much as I can.
Yeah. Are you involved in any charities?
A buddy of mine, Thomas Sadowski, who's an incredible actor. He got me involved in a charity called War Child, which deals with a lot of children who are displaced, women and children who are displaced from atrocities in third world countries and other places from war-torn countries. And I really am finding myself now trying to get more involved in more things. And I really want to, do something that's geared towards, kids, especially from underserved communities. And that was one of the reasons we started our theater company in Miami, was a voice for, minorities. We were a group of minorities who started this company because we were tired of waiting for people to try to cast us for Black History Month, or when they needed a Latino to play whatever it was, or when they needed a woman to do whatever it was. So we started our own company and was like, we're going to do this the way acting should be, that the talent should get the part, point blank, period. And,
Yeah. Now, do you have any other upcoming projects that you want to tell the listeners about?
Yeah, I did a very small part in a film called Boss Level that's coming out with Frank Grillo, who's an incredible action star. Mel Gibson's in it. I think Naomi Watts is in it. A bunch of people are in it. So that'll be coming out soon. I think the episode I did of Room 104 just came out like last month sometime, which was really cool. And if you haven't watched Room 104 on HBO, you should definitely go check it out. And yeah, just writing my own work, man. Yeah. That's it.
And lastly, how can the listeners find you on social media?
I will admit I'm not great at social media, but I am on it. It's at Sheaun McKinney, my full name. I have a weird first name. It's Sheaun. It's not Sean, even though it looks like it. People look at my name and just automatically go, yeah, Sean. But at Sheaun McKinney, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter as well.
All right. I want to thank you for coming on, man. This was fun.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And my apologies again for missing that first appointment. The world knows he was a gentleman and allowed me to come back on the show. I'm a scatterbrain and I missed our first appointment, so thank you, brother, and I apologize for missing that first opportunity.
No problem. Let's get you back on when season 2 comes back up.
Anytime, man. Please feel free. Anytime. I'd love to.
What up, life? I'm feeling content. I said what I felt cause I felt what I meant. A little more struck to my step, a little more fight when I rap, and it's bright when it's kept in the right perspective, in a tight collective. Anything that you want, you can get it. And don't let him tell you otherwise. Don't fall back, bow down, and don't compromise. It's our promise. See a lot of dollars, see a lot of people that aren't being honest. See a lot of friends and you see a lot of foes. Live by the code, it's the way it goes. She out here on the road. She out here on the road. She gotta live in the cold. She gotta live in the cold. If she wanna survive, she gotta live by the code. So let's raise a glass to the future and the past. Things you never had, help you blaze your path. But you won't see it at first sight. Go get them like it's your birthright. Make them feel something, get a little vocal. You know it all works out the way it's supposed to. Don't bend or fold, break the mold. Head high, it's the code. It's our promise. See a lot of dollars, see a lot of people that aren't being honest. See a lot of friends and you see a lot of foes. Live by the code, it's the way it goes. She out here on